Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Arthur Zaczkiewicz, executive editor of WWD, to discuss how holiday 2020 played out and what to watch in 2021 in fashion. Arthur, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you so much. I hope you had a great holiday, and it was, a pretty interesting year that we're saying goodbye to, right?
That's the understatement of the year, and we're only, 4 or 5 days in at this point. But let's talk about holiday 2020. How did that play out relative to expectations? Did consumers spend as expected, and what verticals performed well?
Yeah, I think what we had talked about this prior, but it was pretty much the trend that we saw, where consumers were staying at home, they're shopping more online, obviously, and they're embracing other categories that we wouldn't really expect otherwise. Like hardlines performed exceptionally well, consumer electronics, appliances, a lot of big ticket items, where fashion apparel did not perform well. We saw sporting goods doing well. Home improvement was a very strong sector, and people are still like nesting and kind of re-nesting their homes. So there was a lot of strength there. I think customer growth partners, I think they estimated holiday sales for the December period at 9% year over year. So that's pretty high. That's above what we had expected. So NRF is looking at pretty much like a 5% year over year gain. So it was, I think, better than hoped for. Again, it was not, it wasn't, there were no winners like across the board. There was some losers. There was, some companies that did exceptionally well. So we'll find out during the fourth quarter conference calls later on. But again, it was a long, drawn-out season. Black Friday wasn't as important. We just hope for a better 2021 as for fashion apparel.
I thought it was also interesting in 2020, the amount of deals that we saw, not just in fashion, but across the board in general in capital markets. What are your thoughts on deals in M&A for 2021 within the fashion space?
Yeah, there were a lot of bankruptcies and a lot of companies like Simon Property Group. They picked up JCPenney stores, right? Brooks Brothers, Lucky Brand, Forever 21. So a lot of those mall-based operators, they just took them under their wing. So I think we'll continue to see, some retail failures, moving ahead, perhaps in the specialty retail apparel sector. But I think IPOs are also going to be hot. This past year, they were up, I think, over 40% year to year. So we're going to see that really continue. We have a couple of companies like Poshmark is going to be looking at an IPO probably this year. Instacart and Affirm, which is the global payments platform that allows you to pay in installments. So moving forward, I think the IPOs and then people scooping up companies out of bankruptcy or closed units will be the areas where there'll be growth.
And fashion will also be focused on changes in intellectual property law and shifts in enforcement in the areas of privacy and sustainability. Tell us more about that.
Well, with two major things kind of taking effect, we have the California Consumer Privacy Act, which it's kind of vague and it's open to interpretation, but it's basically protecting consumers' data, right? So we saw Europe go through this a couple of years ago, and it will play out. But I think it's not really defined about what they mean about selling, selling data. So, for example, if they collect cookies when you visit their site and then use that to share with marketers, is that selling your data? So that still has to be worked out. The other important one is the Trademark Modernization Act, which really has to do with inactive or just brands and trademarks that have been asleep, and kind of just making sure that that's brought up to speed. And then the other important thing, I think, is going to be the sustainability laws that come into effect with the FTC. So that's going to be really important about how you label what's sustainable. Just like, I don't remember when organics were, first kind of coming to light into supermarkets, like labeling things natural or organic. You have to be very specific. So I think the word sustainability, as it permeates the consumer market is going to go through that same rigorous kind of examination.
And finally, how is China and Brexit impacting the fashion industry?
It's so funny. I just got a report this morning on Brexit from PFS Web, and over 45% of companies based in the UK, retailers, said they're not prepared, to deal with the impact of Brexit, and about 79% said they expect to be impacted by Brexit. So it's still playing out. And, I think there's so much volatility in just global trade right now. It's going to put a lot of pressure on those brands. And we have a lot of high street luxury brands that are favorites outside of the UK. So let's keep our fingers crossed that they could figure this out, quickly. I think with China, I think the question with China has to do with, we're still kind of in a trade war with them, and it really hasn't affected fashion apparel so much, but definitely other categories. So the question is going to be when President-elect Biden takes office, what stays in place as far as what's going to the relationship between trade on China. Some are saying he's going to maintain those tariffs, so moving forward. So let's see. It's a big question mark for 2021.
Well, hopefully we'll get some more visibility in 2021, that's for sure. Arthur, it's great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.